Let's talk about different roof types and how you have to lay out panels differently depending on what the roof is made out of or what the shape of the roof is. In most cases, you'll just find regular ordinary shingles on them, and we've talked about how to lay those panels out in landscape orientation. Now, there are a couple exceptions, and the first one we have here is tile roofs. So any sort of clay or cement tile, we'll want to place the panels a bit differently. Now, there's a couple ways you can tell here. Even just from this aerial view, we can look at the house and be like, oh, these shingles are oddly distinct from such a low quality image. That's a good sign that they might be tile. You can see that there's each individual shingle here pretty clearly. You can also look at the ridge, or the different folds of the home are very thick and distinct again. It's hard to tell on the ridge of this home, but you can see it a lot more clearly here on these hips. You can see the hips have a very thick border there just from the shingles. That's another good indication of tile roofs. Hopefully, however, that you have some sort of street view. However, you can even see it here in this Google 3D view. Once again, the very distinct shingles looks a lot more textured. If I go to street view and I zoom in on this home, you can see that this curvy pattern here is a dead giveaway. You can see, like I was talking about on the fold here, those really thick clay tiles lining those folds. I'm going to show you how you're supposed to place panels on a tile roof. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard as usual. Now make sure you have the correct panel type, so let's think about what the correct ones for Colorado Springs are. In this case, right now it's Qcell 320s, and the microinverter is the IQ7. Now here's where it gets different. We go to the orientation. Instead of using the normal landscape, we're going to switch it to portrait orientation. So for the clay tile roofs, we need to have portrait orientation. So that's really the only big difference between the normal ones and tile roofs. So then we'll hit fill roof face, and we can place them here, and you can see they're placed in portrait instead of landscape. I could just keep going. It should save your settings, and I can fill all these roof faces with portrait panels. Another exception we have for placing panels differently is flat roofs. You can see that this roof here is completely flat. Let's check this one over here though, because this one is definitely a little bit pitched. But I'm not quite sure by how much, so let's just check it. Just select it, and we can see over here, the pitch is 10 degrees. Now, as far as panel placement and layout goes, we only consider anything below 5 degrees as a flat roof. So 5 degrees and below, it's a flat roof. Anything above 5 degrees, so 6 and above, is a pitched roof. Now, this particular rule can be seen on the props wiki. If you go to additional rules and info, you can see down here, we talked about tile roofs, and there's an option for that right here. But this one is for flat roofs. Let's click the flat roofs button here. I'll take us to the flat roof rules. It says, if the pitch of a roof is 5 degrees or under, then it is considered a flat roof. Panels placed on flat roofs must follow these rules. The panels must be placed in portrait orientation, so it's similar to tile roofs in that aspect. Now, the panel pitch is 10 degrees. The panel pitch or tilt is 10 degrees. So you'll see when we go back to Aurora, there's an option to change the tilt of the panels. The next one is 22-inch spacing between rows. You'll see that there's a couple options for types of spacing. We want the one labeled row spacing to be 22. The last one is that the panels must be tilted to face south as much as possible. So let's go back to Aurora. I hit M on my keyboard. Now make sure I have the right panels for the state I'm working in, and I find them here for Trina 320s. Now once again, add the IQ7 microinverter here. Now remember, portrait orientation for flat roofs as well. Now, we also want to hit this advanced button to give us some more options. And here's the tilt option here. Remember, we want that to be 10 degrees. Now the other one was row spacing. Notice there's spacing, parenthesis X, and there's another one that says row spacing. We don't want to touch the spacing X, we want to leave that to the default number it has there. What we do want to change is the row spacing to 22 inches. Now I'm going to click fill roof face. And as soon as I click here, you can see that it's placed these evenly spaced rows of panels that are tilted towards the south. Now we need to do the same thing with the roof face up here. Just click M, should have all your settings saved, just double check to make sure. Click that roof face, and then we have another flat roof panel layout. Now this roof over here is not below 5 degrees, so it is not a flat roof. So I'm going to have to switch my settings to make sure we have the correct panel layout. I'm going to change the portrait orientation to landscape. And then I'll have to switch that tilt to 0. Then I'll click fill roof face, and I'll place those panels there. You can see these ones are done differently. They're more flush with the roof I have here. And these other ones are tilted. So that's a difference between the flat and the normal roofs there. Just remember, if you're ever confused, look in the props wiki in the additional rules section for tile roofs and flat roofs.